Alright guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is DFree, and for today's Dragon Ball Legends video, we're going to talk about Great Saiyaman 1 and 2. So you guys know I had to touch on this as the female connoisseur. That name just kind of stuck, right? Over the years. So I'm excited about this character, Zenkai Awakening, but I have always been somebody that's been really kind to characters. I'm gonna just kind of throw it out there straight as it is, man. I do that a lot too, but I feel like my value on characters is different from a lot of people. Anyways, that being said, we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the Zenkai Awakening just happening in general, because there are far older characters that need it. They're not even like, they're like, what, a year and a half old, whatever. Far older characters that need it, so the fact they got one is interesting. We're going to talk about the upcoming anniversary and things like that. So there's going to be a lot that I kind of touch on. So if you have the time, please be sure to follow and listen all the way through from beginning to end. And if not, that's fine, but try to finish it when you get the opportunity. That being said, if you're new to the channel, stick around and subscribe. Click that bell icon so you don't miss anything we upload. The anniversary is right around the corner in a couple of weeks, just 2.5 weeks or so. We're gonna have a ton of content for that as well, like summons, gameplay, showcases, all that stuff, guides for whatever events they have. You're not gonna want to miss anything we upload, because I'm gearing up, I'm loading up, saving my energy to be able to drop a ton of videos for you guys. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you guys are excited. So today's video like is going to be 1,000, and here we go. So talking about Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, like I said, far older characters that kind of need the Zenkai. So I actually am not going to be going all in on this Zenkai. I'm taking the hard stance that I am, just for the first time ever actually, not going to be pulling on anything. I'm going to just start saving for the anniversary, because I don't have a ton left after getting shafted on Gamma 1 and 2 and the androids, the tag androids. Nope, I'm gonna go ahead and save. Also, it just kind of fits hand in hand with what I do nowadays anyway. So that being said, here are the stats. Stats are actually pretty solid. I mean, you got some pretty normalized stats, which you would expect from support type characters. They're the jack of all trades, all-arounder type of character. So very good stats across the board. 180,000 on defense is nothing to sneeze at, and 270 and 250. A little bit more focused on strike. There is some extra buffs too. Speaking of which, the strike and blast cards they add to your deck are support things too. I mean, a lot of characters have these types of cards, but you can't understate this. The fact they're going to put this in your deck for every character to have access to on command, very nice to see. So when it comes to the Zenkai, the blue card seals an enemy slot on hit. The sealed slot can't be used for 10. Now, I wish this had blast armor, but that's typical me. I feel like if your dash forward blue doesn't have blast armor, which maybe they have it on the ult, which is fair. Yeah, they do. If your dash forward cards don't have blast armor, be they any of the cards on the screen, then they're just not as good as they could be. But obviously, not everything on every character can have blast armor, so it's okay. So here's the green. Inflicts debuffs. All enemies get plus 20% to damage received for 20 counts. All enemies get minus 80% health restoration for 20 counts, and they also get -1 draw speed level for 10 counts. It's very cheap. 6 key is not very much, and that's a lot of debuffs that'll hamper pretty much anybody, especially when you combine, you know, the fact they're going to pick up more damage. The 20 counts is really kind of where it's at, and the all enemies, a lot of these types of things are for only one enemy. This is for all enemies, so like even if you're versus somebody that has flat out immunities, you know, you won't see it directly there. But if they try to switch to another character, the next character, if they're not immune obviously, will still have these debuffs, including the health restoration and draw speed, which those types of debuffs really hamper characters like the tag Goku and Vegeta, tag androids, whatever, characters that, you know, use a lot of cards, heal a lot, things like that. So it's like good. It's very good, don't get me wrong, but I kind of wish it did more though, just for the record, because these are all debuffs. I need like a benefit to the character himself to really make me excited, but it's not bad, not by any means. That's just me being greedy. So blast armor is here, it's nice. Massive impact damage as well, so obviously going to do a decent amount of damage, especially after a green card for that debuff. But here they have an upgrade of 80% to enemy sustained damage cut effect, so it's going to hit pretty hard, and it nullifies endurance. I don't know if it nullified prior. I don't think it'll show me. It won't show me. Yeah, I'd have to look online. I don't know if it did. It might have. It's been a long time since I've used them, but nonetheless, this is awesome. This is a really good ultimate. I'm happy with that. So we take a look here at the main. Draws the ultimate, gets 50 key, gets damage, and ultimate damage. So their ultimate, for all intents and purposes, should hit pretty hard. I mean, especially after agreeing with the extra debuff, you get 60% damage increase on the ultimate. It's 30 separate, but, you know, together. Assuming you use it within 15 counts, right? You get to hit through the defenses with the ultimate too. It's going to hit really hard for all intents and purposes. Their stats aren't bad. They also obviously have the extra 40% for the Zenkai ability. It should, 35, should hit pretty hard. So hybrids or sagas, double defense, okay? So we take a look here, plus 50%, another 50% damage on entry here, so not bad. For 15 counts, it is cancelable, but obviously it'll just come back on entry. So this is where you see some of that typical support package you're going to see on characters. Applies the following effects to allies, when this character switches out. So restores health by 10% 3 times. Starting to see that pop up a good bit on characters, just, 3 times doing things like healing. Key and damage for 25. So the damage length, I remember, I think Beerus had this, the LF Beerus. I remember talking about how, like, and Kid Goku, his Zenkai as well. I remember talking about how the debuff or the buffs that these characters apply for 10 to 15 counts are good, but 25 is a very long time. What that means is if you're switching consistently, this character can actually benefit on the tail end of that because it applies to himself. He'd enter again. It would kind of stack, It's really interesting. 25 is a very long time. So applies falling effects itself when the battle starts. You get 50% cut, key recovery, and then immunities. I talked about immunities earlier, but he gets immunities here. So in a mirror match, he's not doing anything. The green card's not doing anything to himself. So yeah, 50% cut, not bad, but only for 30 counts. It's one of those characters that flip-flops, as you see. After 30 counts, the 50% turns into 15%. And this is with the Zenkai 3. So if you have anything below that, you're not getting these bottom 2, Zenkai 3 and 6 abilities, which means that after 30 counts, your character won't have access to any cut. So when this character enters the battlefield, they also now get key and strike damage. So they have a built-in effect to where they enter and get key as well. I love it when characters can go switch out or enter and still get the key. So because it feels like in most cases characters do need key on entry, and a lot of characters don't have it. So applies the following effects to allies when this character is defeated. So this is the best thing that they added. This is probably the best defeated buffs in the game. There are some really good ones, like Future Gohan always comes to mind. The draw speed he gives is very valuable, but force drawing 4 new cards instantly with key and damage is a lot. And the non-cancelable too is the selling point, but that's a lot, dude. So when this character is defeated, they're going to give you one last lasting buff. So throughout the match, they gave you a ton of value in different spots. You get their own utility with the offenses and defenses. Like I said, their ultimate should hit pretty hard. They should be a decent, consistent damage dealer. They're also putting these cards in your deck as well, so your characters do more damage. They have the utility of the green and ultimates doing the things that they do. But the real question is, what is the state of this character's placement in the game, right? So let's take a look at sagas from the movies. We'll sort by reds and go from there. These are all of the available red characters for sagas in the movies currently. So obviously they could extend to girls, they could extend to hybrids, they can extend to Sun Family. Then also the leader slot, which is also pretty good because the leader slot with this character, if you wanted to, there is no restrictions on this character. They are completely utility, but not in the ways you would typically think of utility. A lot of times people think of, oh, XYZ character isn't good if they can't do things like knock back or have endurance or revive or null cover changes. That's the standard the game has set for the tippy top tier of characters in the game, is they've got some combination of these effects that are, like draw speed with null covers or whatever the case is. They've got some combination of the best effects in the game, and this character just quite honestly and frankly doesn't have those things. So would this character be one you consider? I mean, looking at this roster of characters here, sure. He's probably the best red character on the page. That's fair. Like Bojack's pretty solid. He has some of that utility too. Gogeta, I don't want to underrate, but that's pretty much it. Like Frieza's got some utility too, but this character is one you would consider with this grouping of characters. But if you extend out, obviously the list changes. But when it comes down to it, I mean, I really do wonder if they were planning on dropping a red hybrid or something. What's the Zenkai ability? Is it red movies? I think it's red movies. Yeah, red movies. Okay, so if it doesn't happen during the anniversary, I imagine the red movies character was around the corner, because I think this guy's red movies too. No, he's red android. Yeah, he's red android. But still, 2 red Zenkais for movies back to back seems shady, dude. So let's take a look at what we have for the rest of this grouping and talk about the overall options that are available here and kind of what we've been getting of late. Obviously, we have the tag character. We have the Gogeta that came out around the same time. But for the most part, most of the stuff here is pretty much characters we've already had. And that's kind of what we're working with. So Movies is the team that, there's the characters at the bottom. Movies is a team that does still need access to some other things. I mean, if you were to take the tag Goku, Vegeta, and Gogeta and put them on a team, you still have a very powerful team, obviously. But Goku and Vegeta are quickly falling down the ranks as the best character in the game because more characters keep coming out, like the tag androids or Ultra Kaioken Goku, that are just flat out better in most cases. So that's kind of where we're at with this. But again, nonetheless, though, giving them options is fine. And I think that the anniversary, it's interesting because are we going to see a GT Part 2 3 times in a row? I don't, or GT or Future, you know, Part 3 or Part 2, whatever, 3 times in a row. I don't know if we're going to do that. But I do know it seems like we are going to get universe survival based stuff because that's where the game was trending prior to the game moving into a direction to put out movies based content for the movie collaboration. And that leads me to the next thing, is that was there supposed to be a separate banner planned? Because I think that Legends has some stuff planned. And if you go back to Dragon Ball Super Broly's release, they did this thing where they dropped Broly by himself, and then they came back with, what was it, God Vegeta on the next banner a couple of months later. Then a couple of months later, they did a final collab, and in that one they had the Transforming Gogeta. I think that's the order they went in. But nonetheless, there's 3 separate banners, 3 separate times, different characters, each time coming out and releasing. Obviously, later on, they dropped the LF versions of some of these characters, but that's what they did initially. Now, they could have followed through with exactly what their plan was, to release just the Gammas 1 and 2 and call it a day, because even by releasing Gamma 1 and 2 at this time, they still said, screw your schedule for the movie and what you want to do. We can't adhere to that because our anniversary is so close. And if they decide to push this out, I was talking about it like last time I did a video about this, where it's like, okay, if they delay this any further to the time where the movie's about to come out now, it's like that's going to be like part 2 of the anniversary. It gets kind of weird trying to do multiple things, and then does the anniversary second half just become heroes or superhero content, things like that? So I don't really think that they went down that path, but I do think there's a chance there was a switcheroo in here, and maybe like a Gohan was supposed to come out instead of Gammas 1 and 2, but maybe I don't know. Let's just say hypothetically Gohan gets a new form or something like that. I don't know what the plan is. But maybe they decided they just kind of just pulled that back, because we've been getting hybrids. That's the thing. Hybrids have been popping up a ton with the Trunks that came out and just some of the stuff that we've been getting. So I really do wonder if that was what the idea was, to drop hybrid-based stuff for that. Now, as it pertains to Zenkai Awakening, and that's the last thing I want to kind of talk about. And if you're enjoying, hit the thumbs up. So, Zenkais. It's unfortunate I can't really sort by most recent Zenkais because there's a number here. I see some of them, but I've said this a few times, and what I think is, I genuinely feel that this character, I love Gohan. As a fanboy of Gohan, I genuinely feel like he ruined this game. And let me explain why. I don't think that Gohan was inherently a bad character to introduce. I don't think he was a wrong decision. I don't think there was anything wrong with Gohan in particular getting a Zenkai at the time he needed it. But the answer to this is that he was just too strong. He wound up being too good, too powerful. There were still answers to him, but he ruled this game for like a year. And what that did was, throughout that entire year, they had to do weird things like drop the LF Trunks, you know, that came out recently, the LF Trunks. They had to do weird things like give him restrictions on his kit to where you don't run him with this character to just get more value and revitalize this character's usage, right? They had to do weird things like that. And that in and of itself is a bad thing to do when you decide you're going to drop characters like that Trunks and like Bardock that are limited in ways, but you're going to also drop other characters that have taken the power creep to the next level, like these summonable ultras, and you know they don't have these same restrictions. They get to play willy-nilly and free. But the problem is, and the reason why Gohan won the game, is because he's the reason that level of power exists in the first place. Now, okay, let me say this. He was not always going to be at the top of the game, but what they did was so astronomical. The change that they made when it came to the summonable characters was ridiculous. And I mean, since this guy came out, pretty much all of the Zenkais over the last like 6 months have been really underwhelming. And that's because he came out and he was so powerful. There were some other ones that were in contention and are very good or were very good, like the SS3 Gokus come to mind. When they came out, they were very powerful. Super Vegito is still one that gets a lot of play today. Bardock, they decided, screw him, we're going to drop a counter to him, but he's still very powerful in and of himself, obviously. I mean, there are some that, again, just you can give credit to for being solid characters. But the Gohan changed the climate of the game, and everybody complained that summonable LF characters were garbage. There was no point in summoning for LF characters, and that summoning them felt bad because you'd get them at such a low star rate, which also kind of coincidentally probably is why we have a good change to the game. On the opposite side of the coin is that they decided to incentivize LFs so much, especially with them coming out on like a monthly basis. They incentivized them so much. They shifted away from Zenkais being the power of the game, which isn't really a bad thing inherently, but they also decided to make Zenkais free as a result. So they kind of coincided. And again, the Zenkais that come out have utility. I mean, you could use them, but they're clearly not the best characters in the game like they once upon a time were, like when Beerus came out, or when Final Form Cooler got his Zenkai, or when Gohan, like I said, like they were the best characters in the game. But anyways, it shifts, right, to where Zenkais become free, and you get some positive changes, including LF characters getting a lot better, which also could be a bad thing because, again, LFs are almost, in some cases, really, really good, too good, and they get crazy mechanics like tag, but the Z power bonuses, right? So I want to give Gohan credit to improving the game in that way too, because they pretty much had to change their entire design philosophy because of the backlash that character got and the way that they couldn't dethrone him, right, for a year. And it almost felt like, if you really look back at it in hindsight, it almost felt like they were like, we can't do this. We can't do this. We can't do this. We can't put out things that are too strong, because then just the scale goes up and up and up. And then one day they just said, screw it. We're going to give you summonable ultras, and those characters are going to introduce another level of power. But that's not all. We're going to bring out new mechanics that also completely change the way that the game is played with the tag and stuff like that, and just make these characters OPAF, dude. These characters have gotten so powerful. And that extends back to Gohan. So the closing sentiments I have on Zenkais is, with Zenkais obviously no longer being the power of the game, some of them, again, very good characters that are really good. They fit into their teams perfectly. But with Zenkais no longer being the power of the game, this is why I said I don't think I will be, well, I know I won't, but I don't think anybody really should be going for Zenkais anymore, especially because they're free. They're freaking free. Like, go for it in time. Take your time. The only reason people even do in terms of YouTube anymore is for content creation, because easy views, quick views, right? But Zenkais, just, they're going downhill, and I don't think that they're ever really going to return to prominence. That's my closing sentiment. I don't think they'll ever return to that level, because the game has just moved so far away. Because I mean, imagine what the next Zenkai would have to do to be as good as Ultra Gogeta. Like, seriously, they don't even give these Zenkais like the abilities that are just like good abilities, but like, you know, like they're not like game-breaking abilities. Like, say like 13 got endurance, he'd be a lot better, but he still wouldn't be game-breaking good. You know, like they could have gave him that, just for an example, right? So I don't think that they'll ever really kind of get back to that level. But that also kind of, and this is a separate thing that's going to lead me into my next video, so stay tuned for that, is with them raising the power scale of this game, what does the game look like 4-year anniversary, post 4-year anniversary? Yeah, that's an interesting topic. So this one kind of went a little off tangent for what I wanted it to be, because I was going to save some of that stuff for the next video. But stay tuned for that one. I hope you guys are excited. It'll probably be the direct next upload I do, so stay tuned. You won't have to wait very long. If you enjoyed it and you made it all the way through, thank you so much. Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, though, just to kind of recap and cycle all the way back to them. They're solid, but they're not going to change the game. They're not going to break the game. But paired in the right scenarios, they're going to be good. And you know what I'll tell you is that they will wind up being on some teams and used in a way as an updated version of Future Gohan. Like, going forward with these, like, I actually literally just did one a couple days ago. Like, my boy Rai, he probably will wind up using, even he might use both, to be honest. But like, you might just drop Future Gohan entirely from those types of like gimmicky videos where you defeated character and just throw them in there. And they actually will probably, well, they will be. They'll be a lot better, and they'll sustain, have more utility, usability, blah 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 blah. They have good mechanics in relation to Future Gohan. So anyways, thank you all. I'll see all of you in the next one.